So this video's a little bit about from the depths of somewhere, and a few CA curveballs because we like to have them as well. Right, now where do we start? Let's start with the Demares and the flyer ID and operator ID. So it's been a year now, everything's been running about a year roughly, give or take a few days. So typically around 500 people per day have registered to be an operator. This is anything over 250 grams, and there are currently about 190,000, okay, 190,000 of us, right? 190,000 of us flying drones. Holy cow! You know, I thought it'd be about 90,000. There's no way I thought it'd be 190. Not a can else chance. So that's over 500 people per day were registering to fly drones. And this is before we have the sub 250 grams, because we know when the sub 250 comes in, this number's going to skyrocket. You know, I can see this number hitting 250,000. I can see 250,000 or more. I would say, drone operators, we are the biggest stakeholders, okay, out there right now. The BMFA technically, and I think FPV UK, they now have hell of a remit to be able to go to the CA and go, do you know what? While our membership is what we represent, we also represent all the other hobby flyers, because there's 190,000 of us. That's a lot. Manned aviation, you know, that you're not even close. And thankfully DJI released some data on drone safety, and holy crap, while it's based on the USA, if you look at the stats, drone flying is the safest form of aviation, you know, going. Now, we don't have skin in the game, as you call it, okay? And yes, that may be fortunate, you know, it's very hard to do the things where you go, well, you know, it's not as risky, but we're not a danger to aviation, we're not. And quite clearly, with the hours being flown, we are not a danger. Yeah, it's astounding. The American numbers show it, the DJI numbers show it. You know, manned aviation a few weeks ago, 2 helicopters hit each other, fall to the ground and crash. Now, correct, we don't have skin in the game, but our aircraft, when they fall out of the sky because of their weight and everything, you know, luckily, to date, no one's died. You know, the first person that, when it happens, it's going to be very sad, it's going to be very, very anti-drone, you know, but let's face it, there are certain aviation companies that will be considered, well, big aviation companies like an American with a software glitch that did this to a plane full of hundreds of people. You're surprised they're still around at times. Okay, now, anyway, moving on. So, DJI released the great data. So the Demares, it's working, there's 190,000 of us registered, that's brilliant. There's a bit of a curveball. Yes. On the 15th of December, so we've all got our operator IDs, I hope, we've all been registered and we've done that. Remember, getting an operator ID is not any kind of permission to work commercially and fly congested areas. It's nothing to do with that at all. That's a different course. So, 190,000 of us. We all then have to go out and get a flyer ID. Okay, so that we're then going to go out and get our flyer IDs. What would be interesting, and I think this would be interesting, is the number of flyer IDs issued versus operator IDs, because not everyone owns a drone. This number of actual people that fly drones could be a lot higher, and I do mean a lot higher. So it would be interesting to know what the difference between the operator ID and the flyer ID. I think that would be nice if we knew that. However, we're going off on tangents. On the 15th of December this year, there's a new flyer ID test. So a new one, it's coming on the 15th of December. Okay, 15th of December 2020. Now, this one's a little bit different. So this flyer ID test is 40 questions based on the new YARSA rules, which the CAA have always had this thing where the drone rules are too complicated and they spend too much time explaining the rules to people on the phone or in writing and this, that and the other. If they had a problem before now, the new YARSA regs have just made their workload 10 times worse, I suspect. However, I suspect the flyer ID is to try and get rid of that problem. So, flyer ID, 40 questions, 75% pass mark. It's based on the new rules. It's then valid for 5 years. Okay, your new flyer ID, which will probably be a new flyer ID number as well. Yes, that's what it says. There will be a new flyer ID number. Yes, so if you've had your certificates issued by an RAE with your A2 or your GVC on it, I have a sneaky feeling you're going to have to get them reissued with a new number. Could be interesting. Could be interesting. So we've got that. Now, the CAA's remit amongst all this, by the way, so the CAA has a remit, and their remit is safety. The CAA is not about law enforcement. They are about regulation, okay? So they will not investigate you for breaching privacy. That's not their remit. They won't do that. They don't deal with broadcasting rights either, right? They don't worry about that. That's nothing to do with them, okay? The bit they care about is the air navigation order and air regulation, okay? So in CAP 722, they did, however, say, unless you're flying extremely dangerously or recklessly, basically kind of get on with it. So, if it's any kind of breach of privacy, they say call 101 and the police will deal with you, and that's it. However, there is, from the depths of somewhere, I have a bit here on it. Now, let me just have a quick dig. So we know there's 190,000 operators that have registered, okay, of which, so there are just under 6,000 PFCO flyers. In all this numbers, right, there are about 6,000 of us that fly commercially, and of those 6,000 there's probably another 14, so there's around 20,000 flyers that work for companies. So the operator ID, you know, doesn't always mean a lot, because they reckon with the PFCO there may be another 10 to 20 pilots on a PFCO, so the number of actual commercial flights is higher than that 6,000, okay, considerably. So they've issued over the years 12,500 or so PFCOs, okay. That's quite a lot, actually. It is a bigger industry than they ever thought, and the skies are full of a lot more flyers than they thought. Okay? Now, where is it, he says? Where is it? I have a piece here, he says. It's on one of the bits of paper, you know it is. Now, where is it? Where is it? Ah, so model, this is the interesting bit. So model aircraft associations. So, any model aircraft club or associations can apply for an authorisation to operate under the specific category, which recognises the unique way of model flying. Okay, if a club does that, or an organisation, they fall under the CA's remit. Okay, to be audited and investigated. Okay, they can do that. Now, going slightly back to the Damares, I found my page. The YARSA data changes, so the operator and flyer ID, there will be format change. Okay, they are after insurance number and company ID. Okay, now they are saying the admin portal, right, and check registration. So they're just changing their portal slightly. However, there is something here that says check someone else's registration. Now, provide operators with the ability to check someone else's registration to allow them to comply with the law. Hang on a minute. Provide operators. If they're saying that someone can look up my operator ID, right, the CA, I do not give you permission to give out my data. Right, my flyer ID has got nothing to do with anyone but you and me. It's got sweet FA to do with any other operator. No disrespect to any other operators, I quite like a lot of you. You're really nice people. But my flyer ID, it's got bugger all to do with anyone else. That's my polite version. Okay? What I can and cannot do if I hold an A2 CFC or a GBC or an OSC or a PFCO or standard authorization, or was it an operational authorization or an extended one of any kind, it's got bugger all, and I mean absolutely bugger all to do with anyone else but the CAA, and that's it, right? It's not for me to go looking up someone else's operator ID. I don't give a rat's ass nowadays. You know, you got to understand, right? We don't, on the Facebook groups, there's a lot of policing each other, which is not too bad at times. It kind of can help a little bit. But there is also a lot of backbiting and bitching. Well, this just fuels that, okay? We need to get past all this. We really do. You know, no one's perfect. I've said to people, you shouldn't be flying where you are. Some people just need that gentle nudge. But being able to check out someone's operator ID, no, I don't give permission for that. And I don't sign a little box that says you can give out that information, as far as I'm aware. And if it was, I'd rather turn this into one less. Quite simple. Quite simple. Now, what else we got? So, CA's remit, just do as you're told. So there are 34 NQEs, of which 24 have transitioned across to an RAE, interestingly. Okay. What else have we got? We've got, in 2019, there were 164 OSCs applied for. Holy crap, in 2019, 164. Bloody hell! In 2020 to 2021, so this period, they've had 57. That's probably because everyone's waiting to see what happens with all the YASA shite. The CA currently have spent far too much time, as I mentioned earlier, answering questions on the current ANO, which was originally Articles 166 and 167. 2 paragraphs, that was it. Then we got Articles 94 and 95, which was paragraph each. It's basically 166 and 167. Those involved into the 94 1 to, I'm going to say 1 to 6, and then A to G, and then we've got 95. If you can't live within those sets of rules, and then we're going to get all the YASA stuff, well, hey, let's have more regulation. Now, don't get me wrong, some regulation is needed, a bit more at times is great, that's fine, but there is something called overkill. The regulation should be simple and easy to understand. If at any point you have made it too complicated, as a regulator, they have failed. And YASA, as a regulator, you failed miserably, in my opinion, of course. We're going to get a new Damares website, and that's going to show us the new drone rules, the C0, C1, C2s. We're going to get a new Damares design, and that'll have a certificate of competence, and that includes a QR code. Whoopie-doo, everything's got to have a QR code now, because QR codes are the way forward. Remember, it's just a certificate of competency, which means you understand the laws. It does not mean you can fly in a city. Okay. Now, the C1 ratings and C2 ratings under the A2 CFC. Now, interestingly, C ratings will come to the specific category eventually. It's just time. Basically, they've got to sit down and work out what you're going to be able to do or build, or what components you're going to be allowed to use to build an aircraft. and how to get that aircraft certified. They've got all this to work out yet. Oh my God. So it's going to come. Eventually we'll have C5, C6, C7, C8 aircraft. And with those aircraft, you're going to be able to do other things. Now, interestingly as well, now this bit, there's a few people out there I know, right? They'll find this bit quite amusing to a degree. So, I've got someone who went to Australia to fly drones, who lives in the UK. So Matt went to Oz with a company, and he went out there and he flew the Quantum Trinity, so the VTOL. And in Australia, interestingly, they teach you the radios to talk to airports and stuff, but also they have the heavy lift category. So you have multi-rotor, helicopter, fixed wing, but they did have heavy lifts in there as well. So at the minute, right, we have different cats. So our categories basically look like this. We have the multi, and we have with the helicopter, and we have the fixed wing. Right? I know that 99% of the people watching this probably couldn't actually fly a helicopter. Why it says that people can fly a helicopter and the multi-rotor together goes to show, if you go back further, the lack of understanding, in my opinion, on a lot of things, especially with aircraft type. It really does. It should be multi-rotor, okay? Whoops. Should be helicopter, so we should have the helis in. Should have fixed wing, and we should have VTOLs. Okay. You could also add in blimps if you wanted as well. We'll put the blimp in. Right, but these I think are where we're going to end up as well, because it does say in Cap 722 they've not developed it yet. Because we've had VTOLs around for a while now. I've been flying them. I've probably got about 30 or 40 hours on them. To fly a VTOL in the UK, you have to have fixed wing and the heli dash multi-rotor, okay, and that will allow you then to fly the VTOL, okay. The VTOL will fly like the fixed wing. When it's in transition, it behaves like a multi-rotor. Now, the helicopter with the multi-rotor is just a bad idea. I'm willing to bet that if I got 99% of the people that I ever trained for flying a drone, if I gave them a model helicopter, it would need fixing every day. Every day. Because people wouldn't be able to fly it. Flying a multi-rotor is a piece of piss, to be fair. That alone, looking after one and maintaining one. And I will do a maintenance video actually. We will do maintaining aircraft, and I will do one for that, because that's a new part of Cap 722, more on that. So we will look at that kind of thing as well. So yeah, this is going to change in Cap 722 at some point, whenever they get the thing, well, whenever they can wade through it all, because there's so much for them to do, okay? But expect VTOLs to eventually kick in, okay? Eventually we'll have a subcategory for that, and they should split out the multi-rotor and the heli. They really should, because if you pass the multi-rotor flight test, like I say, I won't trust 99% of them with a helicopter. You just wouldn't. What would a helicopter flight test look like? In my eyes, I would make you fly the helicopter B from the BMFA, because that will separate you from everyone else. Okay, the BMFA helicopter A, while it's good, it teaches you maintenance, and this is one thing that a lot of people miss out, I think, because the BMFA is very much about safety. Your aircraft, looking after it, maintaining it and checking before you fly it is a big thing. And with a helicopter, that's great. However, the BMFA helicopter A for commercial work dash flying wouldn't cut it in my eyes. It would have to be the helicopter B. Okay, and then there's going to be the amount of people that will be able to fly will just go like that. It really would, because there's no stabilisation. There's only your tail gyro. You know, the winds can affect you. You'll learn to hover. You'll learn to fly. that's for sure. But yeah, so expect those changes to come, okay? We're changing our risk assessment methodology. We're going to the JARIS SORA methodology. However, it'll be adapted for the UK's needs, okay? What else have we got? So, oh yeah, impact on airworthiness in the certified category. That will be led by the CAA with direction from the UK's DFT. The DFT is the one pushing most of this stuff. If we ever get use space, and by the way, there's a little joke about use space that I can't tell anyone. It might come out in the future, but I swore to someone I wouldn't say anything, so I can't. But there's a really funny thing about use space, but I can't tell anyone. It's so annoying. But we'll get there eventually. Everyone's now going, what the hell's he on about? Trust me, it's quite amusing.